Miami fans, we deliver every Thursday night. Here we are, 8 p.m. Eastern time with a wholesome one, talking Miami football. Leave those comments and questions there in the live chat. We'll get after it for the next 60 minutes with a wholesome one. Hey, man, how's it going?
Going good, going good. What's up, Mark? Canes family out there, Canes lovers and haters alike. Welcome to MarkRogersTV, Miami Hurricanes channel. About to give it to you good, and have a great day, man. Have a great show.
Folks, let's have a good time, and we can start out doing that by not only talking football, but before you get settled, please hit the like button. It's simple. Hit the like button. That gives YouTube reason to get this video out on traffic streams and suggested videos out to more people. And the more people we get in here, the more likelihood we're going to keep doing this forever and ever. So Absolutely. We will continue to do that, and get on over to the Wholesome Ones channel right here on YouTube. Check out his work. What have you been working on?
We're going over the next 2 weeks. We're going to be doing position breakdowns, my favorite thing to do in the off season. Reason why I'm doing it a little earlier than most of my other years in the previous over the last 4 years is, man, at the end of the day, I don't know who's really going to be on this roster. So while I can talk about these young men, and while I can give them their roses and appreciate them while they're in the orange and green, white and black, I want to be able to give it to them. So we're definitely going to go down, and we're going to have polls on the channel where we would vote on who needs to break down sooner, what position group, and we'll go from there.
Takes a lot of money to run a Power 5 college football program, and it takes even more money to do it right. So that's a topic of conversation that we've had with you a number of times throughout the years in regards to, okay, everybody out there is spending money. They got coaching staffs that they pour money into, facilities, the whole thing. But I think it's pretty easy to see where there are programs that say, you know what? We know that we need to make this level of effort to return this much, get our TV money, get our bowl money, go our 7-5, 8-4 every year, call it good, and make this much money, and never really make that blood, sweat, and tears investment like we're going to go after it. And trying to determine whether Miami was in that camp or in the let's go for it camp, where we know that the fan base is in the let's go for it camp, and the history and the tradition and the legacy is in the let's go for it camp. Mm-hmm. Well, once Manny Diaz was shown the door and Mario Cristobal hired, and the amount of money that was put into the coaching staff and the recruiting efforts over the offseason and everything else, there have certainly been positive indications that this program is going for it. And another big indication today, Wholesome One, is you let me know before we started to record, a big investment put into football facilities.
Yes, over $100 million to be dedicated to the University of Miami's football facilities. Now, I didn't just say athletic. I said football facilities. Now, the reason why it is so important that we invest is, you know, Mark, at the end of the day, people look at it in multiple ways, but kind of one or two. Let's put all of it in one basket and see what happens. And the other people are like, let's do just enough, like you just said, like you just illustrated, going 8 and 9. Okay. What we were doing at Miami was a lot more of the latter than the former. Okay. We were just throwing it out there. Hey, we got the best logo from Dade and Broward County. If we somehow are able to have people stay here and want to play for the University of Miami, then we could just stack up the cupboard, get a whole bunch of 4 or 5 stars on one team. It don't matter who the coach is. It don't matter what the schemes are. It don't matter what our facilities are about. We're about hard work, recruiting, and throwing up the youth. And for a long time, it even turned into championships with that same mindset. But Mark, about 15 to 16 years ago, I would say college football decided to invest in itself. And the biggest thing was the TV rights. Okay, for the longest, it was all about your local channel and the big game on that day. That was it. So if you were in Florida, you watched. If you're closer to the South End, you watched Miami. If you were closer to Central, you might have seen the Gators. If you were super north, you seen either the Gators or Tallahassee. And that was about it. Okay. And then the big game on, Bama, Auburn, the game, Ohio State, Michigan, USC, and whomever they were playing that day, Notre Dame, they wear the green uniform. You were able to see the big game. But then those TV rights got to a point where only certain conferences, one in particular, was on every TV station in the country. You could be here in Fargo, North Dakota. You could be in Austin, Texas. You could be in Brookings, South Dakota, and you were able to watch Georgia, Bama. It's just how it was. So people threw a bunch of money into this, and now they started pumping out NFL bodies because they put money into what? Strength and conditioning. They put money into having sleeping chambers and all kinds of crap. Just a whole bunch of money, bells and whistles, as the Miami Hurricanes fan base likes to say. And now you realize to get those young men, you got to have the good football program, and you also have to have the bells and the whistles. You have to have both. They go together. Okay, your head coach popping in the picture and flexing and doing the, having a Samoan brother, and he's doing the haka with another Samoan who's coming all the way from California to a visit to Miami, and they're doing the haka up. That's it. It's what is done. Different uniforms, nice facilities, really good physiques as far as the players that come out of your strength and conditioning program in all facets of the game. If you want to be in the top 1%, and at this point in those top Final Four, you need those things. And they have to be there. And they have to be A1. And for the first time, the University of Miami understands that because the man in charge, both Coach Radakovich and Coach Mario Cristobal, when those two voices are speaking, everyone else is listening. It's not the point where the person who has to sign off on this really could give a damn less about football or could give a damn less about athletics. And they, no, we're not giving you that money. Can we do it for cheaper? Okay, yeah, I'll sign that off. That's not what's happening anymore. And I'm excited. And I'm excited for the young men. I'm excited for their families. I'm excited for us being able to invest back into this program and back from this university investing in it. Because, Mark, the reason why the University of Miami is well known is on the backs of those football players. It was a small private school in Coral Gables until it became the U. And our football players went out there against the Oklahomas, against the Notre Dames, and were beating some of these teams that were thought of to be unbeatable, against the Nebraskas. Okay, because back then you didn't have national championships. You just had the AP poll, things of that nature. So they had to go out there and win. And we're finally investing and giving back to these young men. And that means the world to me. I'm very excited for them.
Folks, you know the deal. Ultimately, you're the producer. So leave those comments and questions. We will talk about whatever you need to talk about, want to talk about, whatever's on your mind, whatever questions you have about the U. All right. Falconer X. I always appreciate the contributions that come over and over and over and over and over and over from you. You are phenomenal. Falconer X had to check out a last night's show because he was taking his beautiful bride to dinner for her birthday. So, Falconer X, we appreciate you being here back tomorrow night. I'm going to tell you that I do my very best to put whatever helmets need to be placed in back of me that obviously relate to that particular show. But you know what? I don't feel like searching for helmets and putting the right helmet there. It's just going to be what it is. So there you go. All right. What else do we have from anybody here? All right. I am going to look for Miami football content, but in the meantime, something that's been simmering, humming, and then exploding across the chats of college football here in the last 18 hours was we got a report from Nick Saban meeting with a business leadership business group in Birmingham last night. Had some rather pointed words to say about Texas A&M in particular. pointed out a couple other football and basketball programs as well. And the underlying theme was that this needs to get fixed. It's not a sustainable model, to use his words. And then Jimbo Fisher fired back. You know, when a football coach at that level, Jimbo Fisher, calls a news conference just so he can fire back. And I got to tell you, I've been watching football for 45 years, Wholesome One. I don't remember. 45 years. Longer than 45 years. I don't want to keep going and totally spell it out, but longer than that. So since I was like 7 or 8, and I cannot remember, and I defy anybody to bring up a time that two football coaches, because by nature, you know the deal, they usually give each other a ton of respect. They talk glowing terms about each other, and you may get a slight idea or indication that two coaches may not like each other because they don't say much about each other, or if the other one's brought up, they kind of deflect the question, or just they're kind of silent. But they usually don't say anything negative about each other. No football coaches. But for them to just throw haymakers, use words like he thinks he's the czar of college football, he thinks he's God, despicable. Basically, Saban came out against Jimbo and flat out just, if you lay it all out there, he's cheating. I've never seen anything like it.
I guess the only thing I would say that would be eerily close would be Lou Holtz and Jimmy Johnson. They had some real beef, but it was never public like that. I mean, they had the pregame of, that game that I don't like to use the term of, where they refer to us as convicts, but whatever. And before that game, they had a little verbiage, but that was, that game is kind of turned into its own.
Sort of like little jabs.
Yeah. This was straight up Tyson and Ali, like bum bum, and I love it. I love every second of it. Anyone that knows me knows I study Nick Saban. I'm a big fan of his. I appreciate what Coach Fisher brings to the table. He was the Tallahassee head coach, so I will always hold that against him, that he decided to go there. So my respect and like for him will always be at a certain level. But Miami got that last W on his way out. Anyhow, I enjoy it because I think this had to happen. Got to give my shout out to the cousins on the West Coast, SC. Much love to you for always being here and supporting. But I gotta tip my hat to him because, in all honesty, I don't know if Coach Saban knew there were cameras there. I'm not trying to give him an out, but he seemed way too comfortable to drop names of institutions the way that he did like that. So that's why I don't necessarily, maybe somebody used a phone because he never looked at the camera at all. Maybe someone was on their phone and they were just like, oh, here's Nick Saban talking, and he's a keynote speaker, and he just finished talking about donations to Alabama with all these rich folks in there. And then he named Jackson State by name. He names Texas A&M by name. He names University of Miami basketball program by name. This man, he was holding nothing back. I don't know if he had a little bit of that brandy in him, that Tito's out of Austin, Texas, too. I don't know what he was drinking, but he was comfortable, baby. He was comfortable. He let it loose, Mark. And man, I love it because for me, I've always been this kind of person where I want folks to tell me who they are so that I can believe them. Okay, show me who you are. Don't pretend to be this person behind closed doors. And when the camera's out front, you're this holier than thou human. Be who you are. And he showed us who he is. Cutthroat, ruthless, and he's very salty when he's not number one. A lot of people are that. A lot of Urban Meyers of the same ilk. Those people who are at the 1% are usually pretty stubborn, for lack of a better word, a-holes. And he kind of showed that last night. And Coach Fisher woke up and chose violence and decided. You could tell he was still holding something back in that pressing. You know, because if I could get his ear, you know, me and him just chopping it up, he might tell the truth. But he dropped a couple breadcrumbs to lead you in the path that I especially with the way the internet works, Mark, I would not be surprised if some people by the end of this week, if not mid next week, have found some stuff that happened at LSU, found former players and former coaches who have been outlawed, who have been whiteballed, who have been kicked out, and have them come in and speak on behalf of what Coach Fisher was illustrating today. And I would not be surprised if Coach Saban has to answer for some of those statements.
So, Wholesome One, did you say that you think that Jimbo held back some?
Oh, yeah, because
He did?
What did he say? What did he say, Mark? He said, how about you go find,
it's
go look
despicable.
into it.
What's that?
He said, look into it. He didn't say, we paid so-and-so to come here. He was actually going to Alabama, or he was going to Georgia, but we paid him to come to Louisiana State. He didn't go. That's what I mean by he held some stuff back instead of just going flat and letting it all be out. But he definitely insinuated a bunch.
Okay. If you're not going to cuss, I don't know what word you can use that's worse than saying somebody's despicable.
Okay.
He said, Nick Saban, he said, it's despicable. Like, you were basically saying, this is disgusting. And saying that a reputable head coach, so he's talking about Saban, can come out and say this when he doesn't get his way. The narcissist, some narcissist in him doesn't allow those things to happen. It's ridiculous when he's not on top. Okay, then he says, some people think they're God. Go dig into how God did his deal. You may find out a lot of things you don't want to know. We built him up to be the czar of football. Go dig into his past or anybody that's ever coached with him. You can find out anything you want to find out, what he does and how he does it. It's despicable. I've never heard that out of a coach about another coach.
Mark, I'm getting what you're saying. Two things can be true.
Now, it wasn't detailed about we did this, and that at LSU, or he's doing X, Y, and Z at Bama. No, he wasn't specific. But it's almost
that's all
like,
I'm saying. You know, it's like insinuating someone's cheating. You could be like, yeah, man, you know, such and such always stepping out, and I ain't gonna go there, but I remember seeing her at the club, as opposed to saying, now here's a video of her at the club with so and so that I was just telling you about. That's going over the head. You know, you at the fence. You looking over the fence. You about to climb over it. But if you drop the evidence, now you hop right over that thing. It's gone.
But he's basically saying that Saban cheated.
Yeah. Insinuated.
So he's saying that he insinuated that he cheated. So he is saying that, and not just that he cheated, but like talking about when you are that sarcastic to talk about somebody like they think they're God and God did this and he thinks he's the czar of, we build him up as the czar, like you are laying it out there. And so what I think is kind of interesting about Fisher's comments are that, so either he's bluffing. Let's say Nick Saban, let's take one side of this and say Nick Saban's character integrity is first rate. And let's say Jimbo Fisher doesn't know anything and he is just mad and he just wants to get back at him. Might as well say, hey, look into it. Go and just kind of raise people's eyebrows and get them to thinking about it. Or either by this, he knows about things and he knows for sure there are things that have been done that Nick Saban wouldn't be proud of and wouldn't want to have people know. And he either by saying this is going to, some media members are just going to take this as is and say, well, if Jimbo's saying it, Saban must have skeletons in his closet, but he's actually baiting the media to go dig it up.
Yep. And some will take it. Some will take it. I hope they do. Come back and tell me. Because I'm going to tell you this now, Mark. For those of us who are Miami Hurricanes fans, we know what Jimbo did to get people to go to Tallahassee. We know what he had to do to come from the Northern Peninsula, come all the way down to South Florida and convince Miami-Dade County and Broward County people to go on up there. What about what he had to convince Mr. Winston to leave 2 programs in Auburn and Alabama that had just went to back-to-back national championships? Now, listen, once we open this here box and folks start snitching, let's not forget you got blood on your hands too. So for him to come out with the big chest is because I believe he knows deep down inside Coach Saban is going to take the high road and probably try to bring it down because he's going to care about PR. Jimbo, I think he don't care. If the backlash come out, he don't care. He's going to chalk it up to he did what he had to do to win. And that's my point. I could be dead wrong. And maybe tomorrow morning, Coach Saban come out and chew him a new one. But like I said, for those of us who lived in Dade County, who were being recruited at that time, all right, we know what happened. And it wasn't just the University of Miami being a down football program at that time. Because 2013, they had won 9 games. 2014, they were right there. And a bunch of hometown young men decided to go up the road. Now, of course, they had won natties and things of that nature. But it wasn't all peaches and cream, too. But that's what Jimbo is really insinuating, is I learned from him how to get it done. So he may want to keep his mouth closed about my program because there's stuff that he knows that he learned from Coach Saban as to how to get it done.
So what basically Saban's saying here is we had the number 2 recruiting class. They had the number 1 class, and they bought all their players. He flat out said that. They bought all their players, and he's basically saying, he said, we bought none of our players. Mm-hmm. If we want to take that as being the truth, we bought none of our players. But Saban is honest in saying, basically, we're doing it the right way. We brought the players in, and now they're getting paid. Not that we paid them to come here, but they know that we got a collective. We got $3 million, and now we got 25 players that are getting paid. But we did it the right way in that we recruited them, signed them, then we rolled out the NIL and paid them.
Right.
Not the other way around, that we had to lure them in by paying them. And if Saban's telling the truth, then they're doing it the right way.
And that's what I said. And in the end, this conversation will I'm hoping that they just say to hell with PR, excuse my French. They just say to hell with PR. You want to throw stones? Let's do it. To some people, they look at it like, oh, these are two kids being unprofessional. Nope. Because guess what, Mark? It's either going to mean the demise of the SEC, and what we've all known to be true comes out to be true, and that they have been paying players since the 80s and the 90s to go live in Podunk country Confederate city, okay, and moving them out of California and out of places in Michigan and Ohio. For a long time, Ohio State don't really recruit in Ohio, Michigan. But anyway, Texas and leaving South Florida to come on up there. Or the truth gonna come out and we just move with it. And now, because now that you can pay players, what are they gonna do? Are they going to penalize you magically out of nowhere? Or are they just going to admit to certain things happening? There's photographic evidence of players magically signing to Alabama and then having dodged charges seconds after they put pen to paper. So let's, you get what I'm saying? We could go there.
Sure.
We could really go there. But at the end of the day, this is a University of Miami channel, so I have to bring it back to Miami too. I mean, you talk about what Jimbo did at Tallahassee, what Coach Sweeney is doing at Clemson, and what Coach Saban has done at Alabama has led to the true demise of the University of Miami, just milking the talent out of that area. I mean, we had to go with 4th and 5th and 6th options at key spots, like wide receiver, like running back, like offensive line, like defensive line, which is very thin in a place like South Florida, like linebacker, and like in the secondary due to Alabama thriving off and having their entire secondary be from half from Broward, half from Dade County. Coach Richt in his time at Georgia, Sony Michel from Miami, played at American Heritage. Okay, Isaiah McKenzie and countless other players. Coach Sweeney going into Tampa, Florida, and at one point his entire starting wide receiver core being from Tampa, Florida. Okay, so and at the end of the day, having the better program does draw people in. I get that. And the fact that Miami, when we did this allegedly in the past, paying players, we got almost a death penalty. But these teams in a certain conference and other big name teams that aren't just a part of the conference have been doing that longer and paying even more, but you turn a blind eye from them doing that until a place like the University of Miami did it. And now it's a problem. Okay. So again, either it's going to be the abolishment of the SEC and the chokehold that they have on college football and college athletics. And now it's what people want is a parity, and the California people and the West Coast people stay over there. And the Texas and Oklahoma people stay down there. And the Florida people break it down into the big three. And the Northern Midwest people stay in this area. And the peninsula and the rise of Pennsylvania football again comes back. Maybe. Or at the end of the day, it's about wins and the better program. And maybe all this is for naught. And then a month from now, they're both reading off PR stunt I'm sorry's for what they're doing. And then on October 8th, Alabama puts a foot in their ass on national TV. So, one of those two things are going to happen, maybe even both.
And then Saban, of course, he's got these Aflac commercials with Deion Sanders, which as a sidebar makes it kind of amusing that he goes after Deion Sanders. So if you're not familiar, folks, I think most of you are. Travis Hunter, #1 rated player in the country, had committed to Florida State, and he committed to Florida State like almost 2 years before signing date. Like he was lock, stock, barrel.
He was all in, all in. Shout out to Cam Underwood, though. He called it. Cam Underwood called it. He said he is not signing with Tallahassee. He called it. But go ahead, Mark.
And I'm not big into recruiting, so I'm sure people could come up with 18 other examples like this, but I had never seen a recruit that was on campus as much as he was, going to events and camps and clinics, and just he was full bore Florida State all over his room, his house, like talking Florida State, recruiting players like he was. And then Jackson State, he signs with Jackson State. Okay. And a bunch of eyebrows are raised. Okay.
The only player that I could say is similar, I'm sorry to cut you off, would be Duke Johnson. Now, Duke ended up coming to Miami, but the minute he was able to get a committable offer, was committed. He was committed since the latter half of his sophomore year as a rising junior. So just to give you a Miami example, that was a person who was committed to our program.
But he didn't change his mind at the last
second.
Right. So this is what happens. What's that?
I said, thank God that he didn't.
And so the purist, the person who wants to think that people are making decisions for the right reasons and everything, are saying, okay, no, he had a connection with Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders went to Florida State. He was one of the reasons why Travis Hunter has that affection for Florida State. So that's part of it. And that they built a relationship, and that because of the groundswell support for HBCUs by some other top players made that decision as well, that they wanted to go back. I hope I'm not stating this in a wrong way in any way, back to their roots and give some love and make that connection with an institution that has a foundation in their heritage. And they made that decision. Of course, the people that are raising their eyebrows are like, well, they just all of a sudden they dropped $1 million and Travis Hunter changes his mind. And that's nothing against Travis Hunter. Most of us would have done the same exact thing. But then Saban comes out and he says Hell, read about it in the paper. I mean, Jackson State paid a guy $1 million last year that was a really good Division I player to come to the school. It was in the paper. They bragged about it. Nobody did anything about it. I mean, and then it's explained. And then Deion Sanders basically comes back and you talk about, here's another possible war right here. This is strong language. You best believe I will address that lie Coach Saban told him. I got to weed through Deion's tweet because his grammar and sentence structure here is not the best. Okay, it sounds like anyway. You best believe I will address that lie Coach Saban told tomorrow. I was awakened by my son. Blah blah blah. The article. We pay Travis Hunter $1 million to play at Jackson State. We as a people don't have to pay our people to play with our people.
Yep. It got fancy. And tonight, reportedly, the video drops of his response. Now, he had a nice, minute-long one that he did on his Instagram and on Twitter. So if you want to pull that up, you can, Mark. And then you hear the audio, and it's rough. It's rough. But I get it. I 1,000% understand. Because one thing about it, Mark, you said you've been watching football long enough. You understand this. For a very, very long time, we weren't even allowed to go to big schools. We had to go to HBCUs. And then, just like Grambling State, okay, that was one of the big football factories. Florida A&M was also a big football factory. Valley, where did Jerry Rice go to?
Mississippi Valley State.
Mississippi Valley State. I almost said Missouri Valley. You know? So Shannon Sharp had to go to Savannah State. He wanted to go to South Carolina. His eldest brother even went to South Carolina. And he was arguably better than Sterling as far as coming out of high school, according to recruiting back then. But he had to go to Savannah State. Anyway, it shows. And I get it. I get it when it comes to the HBCU. My father is a graduate of HBCU, Bethune-Cookman University. My grandfather was the first doctoral degree ever given at Bethune-Cookman University in education. So I definitely get why that connection. Now, although I went to a PWI, North Dakota State University in Mayville State, but, other people went to HBCUs, Howard and Hampton and things of that nature. So I'm for it, and I get it. I completely understand the connection of our people and these institutions in which that we had to start in order to further our education. And to see that they are also a part of the FCS, but a lot of people don't know that. They think that it's just HBCU ball. No, they are a part of the FCS. And a lot of them who win their divisions weren't even allowed to be admitted into the FCS playoffs, 32-team playoff. So that hurts even more. So I definitely 100% get where Coach Prime is coming from. And when it comes to Travis Hunter, I hope he stays there because a lot of people they feel like he'll be there and dominate for a year and then go to a big school. So who knows? Who knows what's going to come out of that? But again, as a Black man and as the seed of two HBCU graduates, and my grandmother also went to HBCU. She went to Florida Memorial, which is in Miami. So we get it, man. We definitely understand it, and for the coaching.
We can continue this conversation, or we can delve into some other topics. I will monitor the chat and wherever you guys want to take this. But Gary is asking us, please, what position does Wholesome One want Miami to add to between now and August? Let's talk Canes.
Okay. I definitely understand that. It is a Canes show. I get that. But what we addressed had to be said. And we got it out and we had our talk about it. So let's go ahead and move on to the Canes. Don't bother me, brother.
Because before you go, Wholesome One, and address this question, let's understand that what's grabbing the headlines and what's getting everybody fired up is the entertainment of the two coaches going at it.
Right.
That's the entertainment. That's the whether you think it's ridiculous and not classy and unprofessional, or you think it's great and you think it's fun and entertaining. Regardless, that's what's drawing people. But the overriding issue is this NIL, what to do with it, what's it going to do to college football, who's cheating, who's not cheating, all that business. So the back and forth is the entertainment, but this is a Miami football topic. It is a everybody football topic when it comes to what's going on right now and what's to be done about it, if anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then last time I checked, Mark, I just brought in how their battle and their previous battle has affected the University of Miami. So we really never got away from talking about the University of Miami football. So just take a deep breath, Gary, and whoever else feels a little uncomfortable, and just listen. And we're talking about football. And yes, this is Miami Hurricanes channel. We're going to always talk about the Canes. But at the end of the day, what's happening in all of college football usually tends to affect the University of Miami.
So Gary's question was about what position you want to see upgraded between now and into August camp. What needs the most work?
But, Mark, it seems that every year we have this issue where it's just one position group where everybody's dogging on them and making them feel like crap. This, all of a sudden, remember I said, it just happened to be a bad day to have a bad practice, to be just a little off. And everybody thinks our wide receiver course sucks. Like, no, man, that's not where we're going with it. Last year was the running backs. You gotta start Knighton or Cheney. Cam Harris sucks. Gotta play him. It's like, dude, they're all Canes for now. Okay. So to answer your question, I think the growth that I wanted to see has already happened in the fronts on the offensive line and defensive line, which is very, very important to me. I do think we still have some questions with edge. We've had some love with transfers from UCLA and things of that nature. So we do want some edge presence, and we've addressed it a little bit in recruiting and a little bit in the transfer portal. I'm hoping we can either hit home again on another big transfer, maybe out of one of the big programs, or we just really coach up the guys we have, because I don't think Chance Williams and Jafari Harvey are bad players by any means, or Elijah Roberts. We got some guys, and I think for right now it might be edge rush by committee. We may not have one particular prospect, one particular player stand out and have 8.5 sacks like that. But I mean, if we get that pressure from the interior, which I'm hoping we get from Liechtenstein or from Leonard Taylor, I think we could really affect the passer even more than we would be able to affect them with elite edge presence. All right, we could blitz off the edges and funnel it back in. When you blitz up the middle and they have to go outside and we have no help to get on out there and we get outflanked and we lose our force or lose contain, that's a really big issue. So I'm hoping that our defensive tackle production takes an elite step. All right, if we can get Leonard Taylor to play like the third overall prospect in which that he was according to 247, we could. To me, that's worth a win or two. An elite defensive tackle play with other good play around it could be the difference between an 8 and 9 win team. Could even be the difference between a 9 and 10, if you ask me. Okay. So that's defensive tackle for me is one of the positions. Cornerback. I want to see our corners play with that confidence. I saw a little bit of a jump. Some guys still get beat often. Okay, some guys are who they are. They've had 2 or 3 different coaches and their hips are still tight. They're still not fast. They look great. They're tall, they're long, but they ain't the fastest. And at the end of the day, sometimes you are who you are. So the job of coaches is to be able to scheme and put you in a proper position to where we don't have you out there looking bad and we don't mess up the defense and the team, putting you in man coverage, press man, and you're not fast enough if he beats your press and he's behind you and now we're playing trail technique. Okay, and we swatting at the air while the guy has you by 5 yards. All right, we got to be more understanding. Maybe since you're a press, you're a big dude, maybe we just leave you as a cover 2 guy. Treat you like Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman didn't play man. Richard Sherman sat in the alley flat, hit what came to him, attacked smash routes, bailed as if he was going with the corner route, and then jumped the out or jumped the curl or jumped the now. and he made a career out of it. Sometimes you don't have those kind of prospects just yet in the early phases of building a program. So you must understand who you have on your roster and coach to what you got until you're able to change it, whether that be in the transfer portal or through recruiting. So I would say defensive tackle and cornerback. Now, to give you one on offense, wide receiver is a question. I want to see tight end. Can we get tight end U to resurface? We haven't had a dominant tight end in a while. Okay. We've had David Njoku, really nice, first rounder. I'm talking about a dominant tight end, someone that could slam down in the run game, someone that can also be a big mismatch against safeties and corners, even nickels with his size. All right. If we can get that out of Elijah Arroyo or out of a resurgence from Will Mallory, that, again, I think would also take the program. So my three that I would like to see a big step from in this offseason in between now and in August, I would say tight end, defensive tackle, and cornerback.
All right. I am checking out the comments that have come into the channel over the last week. Try to find something there. All right. Not finding anything there.
Somebody said, what about linebacker? Hey, man, I feel like that's been a dead horse. We can't keep beating it. At the end of the day, we got some transfers at that position, and we're still recruiting that position hard. And something's going to happen there. They got a great coach in Coach Charlie Strong, who all he has to do is focus on linebackers. And the outside linebackers have our defensive coordinator as their coach. So something is going to happen there. Something's going to pop. All right. It's just that simple. So, like I said, tight end, defensive tackle, cornerback for me. I get linebackers in that conversation with wide receiver. Where we got some talent, I just want to see it show up. Are you saying tight end is a bigger concern than wide receiver? No, Laura, I'm not saying that. I'm saying for me personally, for the H1H, that is what I'm looking for, is the step up of a tight end. Because I think a step up at tight end and also the great offensive line play, which I'm starting to see, is good. I think it could take a great step, especially in the Coastal. It could do pretty well. It would open things up for a wide receiver. Look at what David Njoku and the running game was able to do for an Ahmad Richards, was able to do for Stacey Coley, to where they load the box. And now we got one-on-one on the outside. It's only 11 on 11. So if you start to bring 7 into the box because we're blowing you off the ball and we're hitting tight end seams and tight end outs, and you're not being able to tackle the tight end, you need 2 people there to help bring them down. Now, guess what? I could throw the now route to Xavier Restrepo and have him make someone miss. I could throw a quick slant to Michael Reddy and he shake somebody off and get a big game because it's one-on-one coverage. That's all I'm saying.
It's going to be interesting to get your take with this new coaching staff versus what we've seen the last few years, because I've asked you this question from time to time, and you it frustrates you in a certain way when I've asked, when you look across football across the country and watch other games, other teams, how often do you see something and say, I wish we did that. I wish we took that concept and used it. Why don't we do that? Look at how masterful that was. They used that play and that formation to set up and burn them, 3 series later. They did this. They look at the way they're creative on their coverages. You would just go crazy in terms of everything that you would see the elite teams doing across the country that you would love to see Miami apply. And hopefully you're going to get a chance to start to see it this fall.
Yeah, man, I agree. I think one of the other beautiful things about what we're doing is, Mark, we've hired from all over the country. We're bringing Coach Cristobal from the Northern Pacific West. Like, he spent time in the Pac-12 and had to rebrand a program that was known for glit, glam, flash, and being really fast into a hard-nosed run the ball, first round developing offensive line, first round developing defensive line. QB doesn't really matter. 7 running backs on scholarship team. And he did it, and did it to a high level to the point of winning conference championships and winning the Rose Bowl. Then you also have a coach, and Coach Strong, who's from the Big 12, a coach and Coach Steele that's coached for 40 years. He's been in almost every conference. He started in the old SWAC. He's been around the block. You bring in a young whippersnapper who built his things as a Big East player, Coach Adai, and then transitioned to the Big 12 as a coach at West Virginia, and then won a national championship as a defensive back coach, second to Kirby because Kirby's really the DB coach there. But anyway, he just won a national championship. Saw what it took to get there and to get that done. All right, and coach, it's just all these guys and these men. Coach Frank Pounce, who was at App State when they did the transition from the FCS level, which pretty familiar with those guys, okay, physically familiar with those guys, and then moved over to the Sun Belt, okay. So it's people who are at different levels and have done this thing at a successful level and to varying degrees, but they've succeeded, they've failed, they've learned from it, and now they're willing to go teach it at Miami. And I'm hoping that if we're able to put all that together, it could take off. And we'll see. We will see. Again, at the end of the day, we got to go out there and play the games. Okay. Texas A&M game won't happen until Texas A&M. Thank God we got Southern Miss and Bethune-Cookman before that. And then we have Middle Tennessee after that, before we get into our stretch of games that openly and truly matter to the postseason part of our ACC play. People have been asking me, which one would you take? Lost to Texas A&M and you beat Clemson, or you beat A&M and you lose to Clemson. Again, I don't want to ever lose any game, but if we're going to be honest, it makes more sense, and for the trajectory of our program, to have a second half of the season big win over a team that's beat us 98-12 in the last 3 times we've played them in playing Clemson. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about the staff. I'm excited for these young men. I'm excited for the facilities because they're going to get real coaching. They're going to get put in a true program. They're not going to be just football players at the University of Miami.
The point you make about Cristobal in changing the philosophy and approach and turning over the roster at Oregon, the one thing that I don't think a lot of people necessarily get is that, and we've stated it here a number of times in defending his record at Oregon and what he was able to accomplish, is that he accomplished all these things, and it wasn't that he was necessarily done. He was still, like, had he been there another 3, 4, 5 years, we would have seen that continue. He didn't get it to where he was still in the process of. So that isn't his complete body of work, nor do I believe that would have been the end of it in terms of what he accomplished.
And let's be honest, it's to the point where Coach Dan Lanning is still winning recruiting battles off of what Coach Cristobal put together for 5 years. I mean, the facilities that he helped put together there, the program and the culture that he built there, and he left it. Yeah, he got shellacked by Utah twice and Oklahoma. He didn't even coach that game because he was already on his way to Miami. But at the end of the day, Coach Lanning is going to have a nice start. The cupboard isn't bare. The program ain't bad. There's a great fundamental attack 3-4 and a really good offensive line, top 5 offensive line still left at Oregon for him to build off of. 5 stars all over the damn field, So it's pales in comparison to what Coach Cristobal stepped into here at Miami. But like I've told you since 2018, when you asked me, and December 15th of 2018, I remember it. You asked me, where do you want to go now, Hossam? And I said, go hire the elite hire. And it's Mario Cristobal. It took some time, but here we are. It's Coach Mario Cristobal and a staff I couldn't even think of is now a part of it.
Anytime I get a question like this, certainly you can weigh in your thoughts. I'm not going to answer this question directly because I'm not one of these guys that just fires off answers, because that's an extremely complicated question to answer. You'd have to line up. You'd have to take all the best programs in each conference, line up the coaching staffs, compare their resumes to answer that question. The only thing I can say is that their coaching staff has been upgraded tremendously.
Right. Could you at least argue? Well, just to say, at face value, I do a lot of researching because this is what I want to get into. So, you look up what these coaches have had to do to get where they are now. And to be honest with you, if I were to do a deep dive and even give up a top 10, which would mean probably a research of over 100 people, to be honest with you, I would say Miami would still fall somewhere in the top 10. Of course, it hasn't played a game yet. And there's still conversation of, well, not conversation, there's still always the opportunity that someone will try to come in and poach and pry and hire, right before the season starts. Things happen like that all the time. So hopefully Coach Cristobal is able to hold on to this staff and build it. But I would say, irregardless, it's a top 10 staff. And until we go out there, we start playing and we start developing, and it really starts to put out what the coaches and the players are putting in right now, the amazing hours and effort and time and sacrifice that they are putting in right now, we won't be able to see the benefit of this fruit until October, November, that time there. Last two games with Utah were a disaster. Not prepared, and in-game management was a disgrace. Oh, okay. I can agree. It seemed like his mind was somewhere else, and I think he will wear that on his chest, because if you were to listen to a couple of the players on the Oregon team, they felt that, and they felt like he knew something was genuinely going on with his mother, and that he was going to try in any way, shape, form, or fashion to get back as close as he possibly could. At the same time, Miami was struggling, and so the writing was on the wall. I get that from Kayvon Thibodeau. He had an interview with Barstool, and they asked him that question: did you feel like Coach Cristobal was leaving? And he said, yeah. Halfway through the season, once news of his mother really getting sick honestly was coming out, and we all paid attention and saw Miami wasn't doing well, and they probably were going to fire their coach, we all knew the writing was on the wall. But thank you for the comment.
All right, folks. Anybody else?
And I don't know if that guy misunderstood me, the Oregon guy, who was saying that Coach Cristobal didn't bring any facilities. That's not what I was saying. I was saying help build, as in he's the head coach, so he has to sit down with the people and talk to them about the facilities. Like they don't just build stuff and don't say anything to the head coach. So, yeah.
Wholesome one, what have you been working on?
Well, just really, honestly, Mark, I kind of took about 3 weeks off. I mean, because it got to the point where, what am I going to hop on and then talk about? I like to do the position breakdowns. I like to show my knowledge, and I like to break down film and things of that nature. So I've been really waiting to see if we can get some information to come out to talk about, because it's kind of weird to sit here and people are like, can you tell me about the fourth string defensive end who just enrolled in school and just graduated high school 2 weeks ago? What is he going to do for Miami in 2022? I'm like, work out? I mean, we got guys in front of them. We've been really recruiting at a high level, and we're trying our hardest to develop the older guys. And that's what I'm excited about is, yes, it's open, because for the longest, seniority was an issue under Diaz. I get that. What I'm saying is, even if the young guy is better than the older guy, the best guy will play. That's just what it's going to be. But if we get to the point, I've been a big advocate of this, instead of depending on the 17 and 18-year-olds, you want to get to a point in your program where the 21 and 22 and 23-year-olds or 20-year-olds are the ones who are really leading and are good enough. Not just out there because their classification says senior or redshirt senior or redshirt junior, but they are the absolute best, and they're the best player, and they're able to create a great example for the young men behind them. And when they leave, they continue to step up and do the same thing for the young men behind them. Okay, teach one, teach one, teach one. Okay, not just give or not just, here you are, here's $1 million, figure it out. No, teach a man how to fish and he won't go hungry. Don't just hand them fish and then wonder why they get stubborn or stuck up. It's because you didn't teach them anything. You just handed it to them. Okay. So I'm hoping that the locker room is one of the other things I'm really big on. Are we developing the right mindset and culture in this locker room? And it's about the work. It's about the effort. It's about being grown young men. And what that means is being able to make the decisions that will never put you or your players, your teammates or your coaches in a bad position. And it's continuously doing that over and over and over and over. And first, it starts out with the coaches teaching that to the young men, and then really eating it up and digesting it and buying in, and then the young men being able to keep each other in line. Not necessarily police, no need to use that term, but just be able to look out for one another, love one another as teammates, and really embrace what that U brotherhood means and what the U family means. And if we can start to do that, the wins will come, Mark. If we can really start to build the foundation of this brotherhood and what the U means to the people who've worn it and bled for it, if we can get that interwoven into what's happening in 2022, I think we'll have a really good program.
George and Tim and Exploring with Ben and Ferris, I'm wiping out these bots as fast as I can. So we had an LSU Florida State discussion the other night, and they were saying, and I don't know if you want to comment to this in any such way, that their 2019 and 2013 teams are better than the 01 Miami team.
I think ending the show on a good note is good. So I'll say this. For us in the Miami Hurricanes fan base, there's some that argue the 1986 team that didn't win a championship and even the 1991 team that did is better than the 2001 team. I think what they have done speaks for itself. And yes, these two teams were pretty good college teams, especially LSU 2019. They broke the game. They broke the mold. The reason why some of the way that we play ball now is the way that we play it is because of what Chip Kelly was doing in the early 2010s, but also because of what LSU did in 2019, where they just broke the mold and went 4 wide. It just went crazy. So that 2013 team, and hey, thumbs up to them. They won a national championship. They beat us on a national stage. They had a really good win margin, and they went on to win a national championship. But it's the past now. And could we argue that if they played Alabama instead of Auburn, maybe they lose? Cool. People could say the same thing about the Miami Hurricanes in 2001. If, they almost lost to Boston College. It's subjective. How do you feel? And the LSU people, of course, root 2019 LSU. Tallahassee people, root 2013 Tallahassee. To me, if you were to look into the facts and the history, and especially what those players did moving on into the National Football League, then the 2001 Canes exceeds them. But that's how I will always see it, because I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan. So I'm going to see from that perspective. And again, even an unbiased person were to look at the evidence of what those players did, they could make the same argument. But if I was an LSU guy, I'm repping LSU. If I was a Tallahassee guy, I would rep Tallahassee. So hey, man, you're always open to your opinions, and that's cool. I think that's the beautiful part of what we call freedom. Good for them, man.
I attempt to be unbiased, and in this conversation, I believe I can be completely unbiased because I don't care anything about Miami, Florida State, or LSU. And I made the statement the other day that I would never be that guy that would say, well, so-and-so would definitely beat so-and-so. I have no doubt about it, because I don't know that. I would never make that statement. But there are three tremendous teams. That goes without saying. All three went undefeated, won the national championship. Okay. The two things that I like about Miami is the one thing that the Wholesome One stated, that if you look at the NFL production of the three teams, it's Miami all the way. And number two, I watched the three teams play, and LSU probably played the most difficult schedule. Florida State played the easiest schedule by far. Miami was somewhere in between. And just to look at, I think that the LSU team tends to get slightly overrated because people look at quarterback and wide receivers, and they were just crazy exceptional. And not that LSU wasn't stacked along the trenches, but Miami was like historically stacked in the trenches. That's where I think the difference is. I just think I don't think
I mean, you get to a point in this life where you mature in certain aspects, and debating back and forth with people of certain teams is just, hey, that's how you feel, man. That's okay. Yeah, you had the first overall pick for Tallahassee. You had Mr. Winston. He's the only one left on the NFL roster from that team.
Is he really? Jalen
Dalvin Cook
Ramsey
was my class in 2014, so he didn't show up till next year.
wasn't Jalen Ramsey on that team?
Oh, he was a freshman on the team. Okay, he's the second one. The entire
Wow.
offensive line out the league. Your running back plays in the CFL. Your tight end was bouncing team to team to team and started maybe 3 or 4 games in the National Football League. Rashard Green, statistically the best receiver, went undrafted and got cut as a punt returner by the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Now, see, my evaluation there is that, yes, we are judging and evaluating these teams as college teams, but what these guys did in the NFL, especially when you're not talking about one guy or two guys, you're talking about 20 guys, 25 guys, 30 guys, that is a huge indication of their ability. When dozens and dozens of them can go on to the NFL and be successful versus dozens and dozens of them try to move on to the NFL and are unsuccessful for the most part. Everybody knows I'm an Ohio State fan. I will not argue any Ohio State team as being the greatest team of all time. I will argue that the entire program, over the history of programs, over the entire history of the sport, can be argued as the greatest program. I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying that it can be argued. But I would not take any specific Ohio State team for as big a fan as I've been my entire life, because I just don't think, and I'm not saying somebody else couldn't take, because they have had teams that could be argued, but I don't think that they are. So I'm not going to argue it.
I would say that
2014
2014 team was at least top 10. They were up there, dude. They were stacked.
I think that 2014 team is better than the 2013 Florida State team.
I would agree. And I think the NFL would agree with you too. I mean,
Nick Bosa, Michael Thomas, Zeke Elliott.
Your offensive tackle, right tackle, went 18th overall to the Titans. Still plays for them.
Yeah, so they had I won't go through the the entire offensive line and the defensive secondary was loaded.
Yeah. Wasn't Hooker on that team too? He was like a first round pick.
Yeah,
he had
Marcus Lattimore.
It was big time. And that's what I mean. You have those Tallahassee people that come on and they just take jabs at Miami. And I get it. I'm not going to go back and forth with them. But I will say this. To bring it and end it out with Miami, I think Coach Cristobal's way of knowing how to stack the cupboard and really recruit and develop, I think he's going to be able to really give them maybe 2 or 3, but definitely a playoff bound team it's brewing in Miami if we're able to hold it together.
The wholesome one compared a few Miami teams against itself. Athlon Sports ranked the top 10 Miami teams of all time. This is their list. Number 10, 1990, Miami. I remember them well. They lost 2 games, but they were, by the end of the season, best team in college football. Beat Texas 46-3 in the Cotton Bowl. Beat it.
You know who was the starting right tackle on that team?
Right tackle? No.
He's our head coach.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I should have gotten that. 1986, the team that you brought up, 11-1, lost to Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl. 2000, 11-1, beat Florida in the Sugar Bowl. Could have played in the national championship game. 1988, 11-1, beat Nebraska 23-3 in the Orange Bowl. Number 6, the 2002 team, lost to Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl, 12-1. Number 5, 1989. I'm just reading it off. 11-1, beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl to win the national championship. 1983, 11-1, beat Nebraska in the Orange Bowl to win the national championship. Number 3, 1991, undefeated, beat Nebraska 22-0 in the Orange Bowl to win the national championship. Number 2, 1987, undefeated, beat Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl 20-14 to win the national championship. And number 1, the 01 team, undefeated, trounced Nebraska in the Rose Bowl to win the national championship. Kirk Herbstreit's on record as saying the 2001 Miami Hurricanes are the greatest team of all time.
It's just that simple. And then, like I said, to us, it'll always be that, you know. But if I talk to my cousin Santana, he lets it be known. That 2001 team used to whoop their behind in practice. The 2000 team used to kick their butt. So the only reason why they were good is because they had to go up against Reggie Wayne and Santana and Dan Morgan all the dang time. And they got good off of that. So, yeah, like I said, it's always it's going to be up to that person's viewpoint. Calvin Harris, who was on those early 90s teams, active Miami Hurricanes guy on Twitter. And he played on the same offensive line as Leon Searcy and Coach Cristobal, who were the bookends 89 through 91, I want to say. They were the bookend guys at left and right tackle. They say that the 91 team was the best team. And it's by far. And they would have kicked them. You probably talked to Ray Lewis and Warren Sapp in The Rock. They may think that the 95 team that got shellacked by Nebraska, but they made it to that championship, is the best team to them. So it's always going to be subjective.
If you'll allow me 15 seconds, wholesome one, let me clarify something here, because when I'm on the Ohio State stream, they're going to point out beating Miami in 2010 and, of course, forget about the 2011 game. And when we're talking to Miami fans, they're going to forget the 2010 Ohio State win, but talk about the 2011. First of all, Al Golden did not beat John Cooper. John Cooper was long gone.
No, he beat the Cincinnati head coach, Fickle.
Yeah, so it was the Luke Fickle year between Jim Tressel getting in trouble for Tattoo Gate and getting fired. And Jim Tressel had an amazing run at Ohio State. And in between him and Urban Meyer, it was the down year, 6-6 year. And Ohio State went to Miami, lost 24-6. That was 1 year after, I believe, Randy Shannon was still the head coach at Miami in 2010. And Ohio State won in Columbus. So they split the home and home in 2010 and 11. So just let's clarify that.
Yeah, that's a game that I happened to be at that game. That was a early game too. Lamar Miller just showed a big speed. Early viewings of Braxton Miller, who played a little bit in that game behind like a senior quarterback who was more of a pocket passer guy. But then when they wanted some explosion, they would bring Braxton Miller on the field, and he played different. I mean, he just had some speed, and you were like, whoa, if they play him the whole game, this might get bad.
Oh, you're talking 2011, the Miami win.
2011 game.
Yeah, the Miami win. Yeah,
Yeah.
Braxton Miller was a freshman,
Right.
and Ohio State probably had its worst starting quarterback that I've ever seen that played in front of Braxton Miller. By about week 4, Braxton Miller took over. A couple weeks after that, Joe Bosserman. Oh my goodness, he was.
I mean, it was a bad team. It was a bad. I mean, that very next year they went undefeated, but they were under sanction. So it's just, and that's what I know you probably have to go. But that's why
No.
I'm kind of I'm reserved in my approach to this season, but I don't know what's stopping Miami from being like Michigan State, just jumping on the scene. Because, and I'm not saying that Coach Cristobal is Urban Meyer, but I'm just giving an example of a first-year head coach coming in and being that big of a change. First year, 12-0. Not saying, again, that we will do that. I'm just saying sometimes when the right coach goes to the right job that creates the right culture, boom. And sometimes it explodes. Sometimes it takes till year 2, like a Coach Saban and a Coach Tucker. But there are examples in the history of a first-year head coach, and Larry Coker to a lesser extent, but there are times of a first-year head coach coming in and things just firing on all cylinders and the stick blows.
One quick note about Meyer versus Cristobal, but before I say that, Daniel, unfortunately, 2011 did happen for Ohio State history. Nobody on the Ohio State side wants to take on 6 and 7, but it happened. Now, the one, understand that you lose your 5 best offensive players like 3 months before the season started. So Terrell Pryor, Boom Herron, who had a pretty long NFL career at running back, Ohio State's best running back, DeVere Posey, best wide receiver, best offensive lineman, Mike. They lost 5 of their best players, including Terrell Pryor, quarterback, like 3 months before this. That's when Tattoo Gate hit. They all got suspended for the year. So they were a lot better than 6 and 6 if they would have had the full complement. They lost all their Big Ten games by 1 score. But back to Miami, because we're here to talk about Miami, and you bring up Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer, much like Mario Cristobal, that's a job that he always wanted. He's an Ohio guy, always wanted to come back, make Ohio State what it was supposed to be, all those things. Mario Cristobal, I see the same thing in regards to this is where I want to be. And there's just something a little different about that. All these guys take big head coaching jobs, and of course they want to succeed, and they pour their heart and soul into it and work a zillion hours a day and all that. But there's something just a little bit different about I'm home, and this is my school, and I want to be here, and I'm doing it for just that. There's just something that it's just a feel, a vibe. It can't be explained.
And like I said, I'm not, because somebody's going to crop this and say, Hosa said we're going to the Natty. If we go to the Natty, we run up into Georgia, Bama, and they shellac us, I'll take my lickings with pride. Okay. Just like all the Michigan people who were super excited about making it to the playoffs and they got destroyed by Georgia and blown off the ball, they could lick their wounds with a smile on their face because they won the Big Ten, beat Ohio State, and went to the playoffs under a guy who they expected to do this years prior to, and arguably should have in 2016 because somebody was short. But anyway, we're excited about what Coach I think there is still a bunch more that we have to get done roster-wise. But I'm excited because there's something about people going to their alma mater. Like, I want Scott Frost to succeed so bad, dog, because he bleeds that red like everyone else. But once oxygen mixes with it, so it's blue on the inside. If you guys don't know biology, anyway, he bleeds that red and white. Okay, and I want him to succeed so bad because I know what it must feel like to have worn those colors and to have done it at a very high level, and to go back and have built your resume up enough to have earned this job. And in some aspects, there is Urban Meyer, who's successful. There's also the old head ball coach, Steve Spurrier, who was successful also going back to his alma mater. But then there are some examples like a Scott Frost, like a Randy Shannon, where things aren't too successful when you go back to your alma mater, and maybe the pressure is a little bit too much. I don't worry about that with Coach Cristobal. He got nice broad shoulders. He's 6'4". He can handle the pressure of being the Miami Hurricanes head coach because he isn't externally motivated. He wants to win because they're going to put the work in to win, not because some magazine tells him he should win because he's at Miami.
Awesome stuff from the Wholesome One.
Yeah, this is a great show, man.
Little OT tonight. Appreciate you being here, man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you, everything that you do, everything that you do for our channel and our show here. We don't have a show without the Wholesome One. Everything you do for college football, everything you do in life to better the people around you. So
thank you.
Thank you so
I
much.
truly appreciate that, man. Yeah, we that's why I was MIA, just really making sure a bunch of our guys, are okay. Life after football and graduation and finals and seeing the parents and I'm overjoyed with the motion with that, because it's nothing like being able to hug these young men and their moms and dads and grandparents when they get that piece of paper in their hand, because that, among anything else we've done, that really changes their life. And of course the networking and the relationships that they built in their time, here. So we're happy about it, and I'm happy to be a part of it, and I'm just happy to talk about the Miami Hurricanes weekly with you. And some of my my coachism oozes out every now and again, because I'm very passionate about changing lives, and very passionate about changing lives through this sport, and that transcends race or financial classification or political party alignment. What at the end of the day, when we all come together, we got to understand that we wear this logo together, and we got to rep it. And it's nothing like that and it's nothing like the Miami Hurricanes. So have a great one. As always, God bless, and go Canes.